Hello, good morning. Welcome to Jasiri. It's Wednesday, the halfway point of the week, and we're here to give you that extra push of inspiration and insight to keep you going strong. As always, this is where we hold bold conversations, and these conversations meet transformative ideas. So whether you're powering through the week or you're taking a moment to reflect, stay with us for the spark you need to keep moving forward. God damn. Oh, did you hear our scripting? All right, so let's get into it. To get things started, I want to wish all the Nigerian children out there a happy World Children's Day.
Now, the theme for this year's...
It's you that caused it. It's the tongue twister.
Catherine had us doing tongue twisters before we started the show. She's the one who caused that. I apologize. Let's take that again. Now, the theme for this year's World Children's Day is Listen to the Future. Today is the day to celebrate the power, potential, and voices of children around the globe. It's also a reminder of our shared responsibility to create a world where every child can thrive, be safe, educated, happy, healthy, and heard. But what is the situation for Nigeria's children? According to UNICEF, Nigeria is a country of the young, with almost half of the entire 200 million strong population. That's around 46,000, I beg your pardon, 46% rather, currently under the age of 15. The current total for children under the age of 5 stands at around 33 million, while each year at least 7 million babies are born into the world's most populous black nation. While a little over 1 in 3 of Nigeria's whole population lives below the poverty line, among children, this proportion surges to 75%.
It's reported that 1 out of every 4 children in Nigeria is out of school, and 75% of children have not developed functional learning skills. Depending on who you ask, the number for the country's out-of-school children could be anywhere between 1.24 million to just over like 18 million. A majority of 7 to 14-year-olds in Nigeria lack basic reading and math skills. What future are we bequeathing to them? How do we listen to a future we're not investing in?
And it's not just educational stats that question Nigeria's real statistics. I mean, if you look at it, 4 out of every 10 Nigerian children under 5 years are stunted due to malnutrition, and the economy could put many more at risk. In 2018, 37% of children under 5 were stunted, 7% wasted, 22% underweight, and 2% overweight. Now, in 2024, these figures have only worsened. Now, 40% of children under 5 are stunted, 8% are wasted, 27% underweight. In June, UNICEF reported that conflict, inequity, poverty, and insecurity have pushed 1 in 3 Nigerian children, about 11 million, into hunger. Is Nigeria actually able to listen to the future when the present of so many Nigerian children is endangered and precarious?
I don't think so.
Wow, the stats are so staggering.
Yeah. They are, and I remember when we had the UNICEF, one of the UNICEF chiefs in the studio with us a few weeks ago, and we were looking at the situation of things for Nigerian children, and it is a very dismal picture. And when you look at a theme that says, listen to the future, and you're thinking about what's the future for the majority of Nigerian children. We struggle to even make sure so many of our kids live past the age of 5.
So what's the future? This thing yesterday, weren't we? Where I said, do children even enjoy their childhood?
Yes, you brought it up, yeah.
Do children enjoy their childhood nowadays? We can think back to our childhood.
Yes.
There were really bright spots growing up. But nowadays, it's like children are forced to grow up quicker than they are supposed to. They're deprived of that. There's a bubble, a childhood bubble that...
innocence
and
naivety.
innocence.
And unfortunately,
is
children
there.
now understand poverty. I'm saying it because then when we were younger, yes, our parents may not have had, but we had, 20 naira, school, what's it called, the break fee and all. But now children understand that there is lack, and it shouldn't be.
And a lot of children are still enslaved, especially around Africa.
Yeah,
and
child
even in some Asian countries, you see child labor is so prominent in those kinds of places that children are beginning to work even before they can learn the basic things of life. In Nigeria, you will still see children in traffic that should be in school. They're still peddling goods. They're still, and now we now have another upsurge of youths that want to make money fast. In fact, it's just like a lot of things have changed from when we were children. Now it's abysmal. The numbers of children that you will see on the road that are in school, that even stay in school.
Yeah.
Half of the time you pass some roads, you see children in uniform.
And if you ask
you'll be
these
like,
children,
why are you outside?
Why are you outside?
Yeah.
When I was young, if they caught you in uniform outside school,
Oh la la.
they would drive you with a police
Yeah,
car
yeah.
into your school,
yeah,
and that is Ijebode Anglican Girls Grammar School.
And that
Me
was
tell
very
my koto ma lo shenta. Timorafa ba mue. That was our
Security,
No, that was
police?
our head of school at that time, Mrs. Morafa, very burly woman.
Things have changed.
Things have
you
changed.
catch a child out of school, the principal will say, oh, we don't want to beat the child because we don't want to discipline the child.
Remember we had the
We don't
conversation about corporal punishment.
Yes.
because we don't know what the parents are going to say, or because we don't want to, I don't want to, I'm not in a position, we'll just only call the parent to come and talk to the child, and that's it. So I don't know whether we are retrogressing or we are
No, obviously, Catherine, we are retrogressing because when Blessings were reading the stats, it was in 2018, 37% of children under 5 were stunted, 7% wasted, and 22% underweight. In 2024, now you have 40% of children under 5 stunted, 8% are wasted, and 27% are underweight. So from 2018 to 2024, that's 6 years. We have obviously gone backwards. And this current economic situation is not making it any better. I know you had a conversation while I was away about how bad the economy was. And we've had the conversation as to the sacrifices parents are making so their kids can eat. Not eat as they used to, but eat something.
twice a day. That's
Twice a day. In fact,
there are kids who are not getting twice a day. That's why you have 27% underweight. They're not even getting the twice a day. And even the one a day they're getting, what is the quality of it?
So how are you going to be able to ask or listen to a future that does not even hear itself? Is it not the children that have voices? In Africa, would we even say that our children have voices?
No, they're the most
Because
overlooked.
a lot of times when children are a bit opinionated, we find it alien to our culture. We just push it at the back of rudeness, that this child is too forward, is too opinionated. But that's where we are. And now we're saying, listen.
Yeah, remember
future.
we talked about that post on social media that was saying that talking back is not actually being rude as a child. It is up to the adults around them to regulate children and to teach them. And I absolutely agree with Lola. It's one of my points about how we beat passion, we beat independence, we beat individuality out of many children. Don't talk back. Parents are always right. Elders always right. Religious leaders are always right.
Don't
Everybody's
ask
always right.
questions.
Then they get to 18, they get to 20, and all of a sudden we expect them to be these adults that are self-sufficient. But we were not raising self-sufficient children.
Actually, the discipline with that comes with a little anger. The base is anger with some parents, because a parent is out the whole day hustling on the streets of Lagos, for example, and then comes home exhausted, and the child is, they say, you don't show me, I didn't kill my parents, you're not gonna kill me. Is the devil using you? Why do you allow the devil to use you? So we say all those words while we are disciplining the children.
And it will shock you
Always on
the
back
number of adults that have complexes that they don't even know about, especially inferiority. Right? A lot of them will try to deny it, but eventually they find out that when they're amongst their peers, they can't speak. You know, they're just trying to second whatever anybody else is saying, because they second guess whatever they want to say first. Even in board meetings, you see people in management cannot even talk, and it's because it started from
The age of trauma is younger now, because everybody, I want to take a cue from, I think, Ebenezer Obey's song that talks about only once a child is born, she's exposed to life immediately. You can't know that song.
I know that song.
How do you know that song?
My mom used to play it, Joe.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
If you sing it, I'll join you.
Okay, sing it. Let her join you.
No, sing it. I don't know the start.
I see the person wants to sing the song.
No, you don't.
I can hear the song filtering in my head.
You put her on the spot.
Something Irakoro.
All right, so I think one final point
We'll sing the song.
I want to make on this is about out-of-school children. We've had the conversation, but again, it's a very glaring situation that Nigeria seems to not be taking note of. We just found out about a new terrorist organization that's coming from the Sahel into the Niger. But one of the issues with insecurity and terrorism is when you do not educate children, you do not give women economic opportunities, and you don't empower them, you are growing people who will eventually find their way in some situations, finding it out that leaning towards terrorists is easier for them than anything else. We need to be scared. Educational stats, a majority of 7 to 14-year-olds in Nigeria lack basic reading and math skills. That is scary. So how are we graduating them? We're just pushing them through the grades of school, and then they get
the
to
quality
university.
of schools that a lot of
Please remember, I do interviews. I do job
No,
interviews.
let's even leave on the privileged
enough
children,
said.
the kind of schools that they go to. Everybody just goes to what we would call, when I was there, Otakara. That means it's just like Akara school in Igbo. It just means, you know, by the way school. And when you hear when you even see the qualification of the kind of teachers that they have, you're wondering where these children would ever get to in life.
Tolu said it in the most succinct way possible. She holds job interviews. That's a conversation for another day.
And
with graduates.
Let's also not forget that there's the economic part of it. I remember when I was in school then, you were talking about not seeing children in school. There were lots of children, out of school because they didn't pay school fees. In fact, I fell into that category lots of times. Like, you just be roaming around. So if you use like 50% of your time in school to just be roaming around because you didn't pay school fees, and then they send you out. Either they send you out or they flog you for your parents not paying school fees. So that's another conversation on its own. So a lot of times you end up not learning anything.
Right, so while today should be a day of celebrating Nigerian children, we have to use it to shine a spotlight on the true picture of things for millions of children across our country. Tomorrow can be better, tomorrow can be brighter. Well, first, they must survive beyond 5 years. Nigeria has the second highest under 5 mortality rate in the world. Yes, and about 111 deaths per 1,000 live births. The odds are stacked against children born in Nigeria. The families must fight to get out of poverty. They must find peace. They must find security. They must find safety before we can even talk about tomorrow. Every Nigerian child's dream is valid, but it is up to us to make Nigeria a place where they can dream. This is Jasiri. When we return, Erelu Adeleye-Fayemi, co-founder, African Women's Development Fund and former First Lady of Ekiti State, joins us on this table right here after the break. Stay with Jasiri. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Please join the conversation via our social media platforms. We are at News Central Today. Today we have at News Central Today. It's okay. We're at News Central TV.
Yes.
Today, we have the privilege of speaking with a trailblazer and a tireless advocate for women's rights and empowerment in Nigeria and across Africa. As the co-founder of the African Women's Development Fund, she has championed the cause of gender equality, working to dismantle barriers and inspire a new generation of women leaders. Her influence extends beyond advocacy. She's a renowned author and thought leader whose work connects with social policy and activism in Nigeria. Our guest is Erelu Adeleye-Fayemi, co-founder, African Women's Development Fund, and former First Lady of Ekiti State. Erelu Fayemi, welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's her smile.
And her beauty. Don't you think we
smile.
look alike?
No,
We should really
you don't look alike. She's like, who is this person beside me?
We're both bespectacled, at least I have that in common. You're very welcome, Ma. All right, so let's just like get into it. Just right before you joined us, we were, looking at the situation of things for millions of Nigerian children across the country. The health statistics are woeful, education statistics are woeful. We are struggling, literally, to provide security, safety, and stability for who we call the leaders of tomorrow. And this year's theme for the World Children's Day is Listen to the Future. I'm wondering to myself, ma'am, how can we listen to the future when the present for many of our Nigerian children is already so dismal?
You're right, it is dismal. And if care is not taken, it's going to continue to get worse. According to recent figures we have from UNICEF, there are at least 18 million Nigerian children out of school. And 60% approximately of that figure happen to be girls. And we all know what happens when children are out of school. When girls are out of school, it's very serious because it means that she is going to start producing children early.
Yeah.
Any child that she produces, if it's a girl, will end up on the streets selling oranges or bread, and then the same fate will befall that child. If it's a boy, he will end up running around garages and or being recruited by terrorist organizations. Yeah. And that is how you perpetuate a cycle of generational poverty. So we need to take this very seriously, and there are a whole lot of things that can be done. Yeah. All the stakeholders concerned need to sit up now and take drastic action before it gets to, it's already late, but as I said, it could be worse. And if you are talking about the future starts now.
It does.
And with these decimal figures we are looking at that you were talking about earlier, how bad do you think it can get?
Okay, so you're often described as a feminist, an activist, and a thinker. What motivated the feminism and activism part of you?
I believe I have my father to thank for that, because from a young age, he taught me that it was important to not only have a voice, but to use it. And as I was growing up, I saw women around me, my aunts, big aunties in the neighborhood who were like, role models or mentors for me. And I could see how their lives, would pan out. And if I ask questions, why is this happening to this woman? Why is she like this? What I would get told is she doesn't have a choice. That is how women's lives are. And so I made a decision very early on that I was going to spend my life ensuring that women have transformative choices. Yeah. And it should not be taken as a fact or as a norm that women should live lives of exclusion, of indignity, and silence.
And this story you told it buttresses the point you also made earlier about the future of children. Yeah. When you have people who are responsible for shaping a young life and a young mind, who are open to the possibilities that young mind and young life can have, they lead you down a different path. Yeah. Yeah. And even the statistics will show you that when a woman is educated, she makes better choices for her children. Yeah. And her children oftentimes are healthier, and then women tend to have less children when they're educated. And so they can break that poverty cycle as well. So when you look at your example, and I think the example of many of us around the table being raised by strong families and families who see potential beyond us being women, it shows you what Nigeria could be if we do more, especially for our girl child. Yeah. And I just wanted to say that's one story that, again, shows the direction of listening to the future, Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's kind of stay with feminism within Nigeria, because we all know that there's different shades of definitions of feminism in Nigeria before we now look out to Africa and then the world. So, and we also know that the cultural landscape usually covers or becomes like an umbrella and shades the effect of the power of feminism within the country. So now my question would be that, how would you define feminism within Nigeria, within the cultural context? That's one. And then also, what are the unique challenges Nigerians face, like Nigerian feminists face, in fighting for a more inclusivity in the world landscape with feminism?
Thank you. Well, I define feminism as a global struggle against all forms of patriarchal oppression. And so please note the key words there, global. It's not a Nigerian struggle or African struggle, it's a global struggle. But we experience it differently. Then we'll talk about struggle. What are we struggling against? We are struggling against institutions, against systems, against processes that devalue women, that dehumanize women. And all these systems and structures and processes are what we call patriarchy. And as feminists, our role is to understand what that means and how patriarchy shapes our lives and governs all the political, economic, social, technological, religious, cultural systems that we engage with on a day-to-day basis. And for women throughout our life cycle. And when people don't pay attention to what this really means, in terms of its definition and how we engage with it and so on, it's very easy for them to just cut to shorthand. Oh, feminists hate men. Oh, feminists can get married or stay married.
Yes.
Feminism is not a struggle against individual men. Yes, patriarchal structures are controlled by men, but they also happen to recruit a certain number of women to help sustain or
Yes.
maintain the status quo
Yes.
as gatekeepers. So our struggle as feminists is against these systems and structures. And there are quite a number of men as well who identify as feminists because they believe that these systems of oppression against women are wrong.
Yeah.
And they want to be on the right side of development and progress. And so I'd like to encourage particularly young people to stop framing these debates in social media. The feminist movement did not start on social media, and it is not going to die on social media.
And it's not gender wars.
Yeah.
We should stop conflating feminism with misandry. As I've explained earlier, feminism is about struggling against patriarchy, against all the institutions, norms, and values that represents. Misandry is about hating men. And I don't see how that gets to be an agenda. What agenda, how does that help us as a society if we are declaring war against men who are our fathers, our husbands, our brothers, our sons? So let us be serious and focus on the things that need to be done. We were talking earlier about the future and our children and, you know, how we can move from where we are. We cannot move from where we are if we do not accept the fact that for any nation to prosper, women have to have full and equal rights and participation. Otherwise, what we will be doing is trying to clap with one hand, as the late Chifemke Abiola used to put it. And every now and then when I give talks, I ask the men in the audience to clap with both hands. They do. There's a sound that comes out naturally. And then I say, okay, now try and clap
With one hand.
with one hand. And then there's silence. That's what we are talking about. If women continue to be impoverished, marginalized, excluded, silenced, they are not going to be able to contribute their quota to their communities. And it then means that all our development goals are going to be stunted. So we need to take the empowerment of women seriously so that the children that are raised by women and men as well can have opportunities, can be productive, and we can be better off for it as a nation.
Absolutely. So sorry, Lola. I want to ask, because in these conversations, whether it's gender wars on social media or whatnot, you oftentimes get a pushback that feminism is anti-African, that it is not African, that it is an imported mentality that is now impacting African society, and young women are internalizing it, and it's breaking our social and society and family structures. How do you respond to that? Do you think feminism cannot live in an African space? Is it anti-African?
Well, remember I said feminism is a struggle against
And a global one.
a global one against norms and practices that have been in place for a long time.
Yes.
So why would we want to insult our own ancestors, our own African female ancestors, and say there has always been silence? There has been no resistance. We've always had resistance to patriarchy in our communities. It wasn't called feminism, but there was always a grandmother somewhere who said no to being being inherited by someone, or no to her daughter being put through female genital mutilation, or no to a king who wanted to continue to conscript all the young men, their sons in the community, into fighting wars. So for as long as we've always had women in our communities who have said no, and they always pay the price for it. You always pay a price for wanting to be different, for wanting to fight the status quo. Where do you think the allegations or the institution of witchcraft came from? The witches of those days are the feminist
forward-thinking women
of today.
Seriously, women who just simply said no to oppression, no to marginalization, and no to business as usual when it comes to treating women as second-class citizens.
Wow.
Is feminism worse? Sorry, this just came. Oh, it's not part of. I was just thinking as we're talking, like, do we have it worse here in Nigeria? than the rest of the world? Because, like you said, it's a global struggle.
Yeah.
But all struggles are different. Is our own global struggle with feminism, is it worse than some other parts?
I don't believe it is. I think it doesn't help that we have a cultural and social context that is a bit more conservative than in other parts of the world. But then this applies to most African communities, because anywhere you go in Africa, the struggles that we have as women, fighting harmful traditional practices, fighting marginalization in terms of economic empowerment and so on, all these issues, and fighting for ensuring that our voices are included in decision making. All these issues are common across the continent.
Yeah.
So yes, it might seem as if we have it a lot harder around here, but the struggles are essentially the same in many places that you go to.
Okay.
Okay, Adeleye-Fayemi, thank you so much for so far. But we want to go on a short break now. When we come back, we want to look at the role of women in politics and talk about the role of first ladies, especially in politics. So stay with us. It's still Jasiri.
All right, this is your award-winning current affairs magazine talk show led by 4 brilliant and phenomenal, and who have another phenomenal woman join us today. Our guest was inducted into the Nigerian Women Hall of Fame in July last year. She's the co-founder, African Women's Development Fund, and a former First Lady, Ekiti State, Erelu Bisi Adeleye-Fayemi.
Really?
Let me do this.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Good evening. You try.
You try.
You know, you're so beautiful.
What's wrong with you?
Give me tissue.
Are you trying to farm my mom?
Blessings never
Lola has done
like
adoption
you are
now.
never like this.
Let's not have words on this table.
No, she has adopted all of us at this point.
All of you.
All of us.
You know, just before we went on the break, I was just enjoying how versatile you are. Because a lot of times women, when we want to talk about topics, we just take a corner and stay there. But you seem to have your hands in, you know, almost a lot of things that are very pertinent to women.
Yeah.
And that's very glad, you know, it's very enlightening, very gladdening to hear. And now we want to talk about politics, representation. Because every time we get a guest of your caliber, we want to just push out everything we can. Because we know to get you is not easy. We want to talk about women's representation in politics. You know, there has been a steady decline in women being elected to the Nigeria's National Assembly, especially. The numbers are nothing to write home about. There are even houses, state houses that have no women at all. So what do you think is responsible for that? Is it a women? Is it we are women that are not ready? Or would you say we are not participating enough? And how worried should we be about the numbers of women that should be in the National Assembly? Because that's like the citadel of power, where policies are made, where our voice need to be heard. But we have 0 to very small representation. In fact, the numbers are so abysmal that you're like, is this representation? When one woman is in a house where there are over 60 men and only one voice you can hear there, or maybe like 3. So what do you do? How do we even reconcile all these representation issues?
So you're seeing now why it's important to have a feminist movement. And this movement is not new. We've had nationalist mothers, for example, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, Margaret Ekpo, Gambo Sawaba. In addition to struggling against colonial rule, they also struggled for voice and space for women. And many women have done that over time, before them and after them. And I keep saying that everywhere we are, with this platform that you have now, it's a powerful platform. Continue to use it to raise your voices. The issue of women being excluded from politics and decision-making is a very serious one.
Yes.
And it's an example of it's a symptom of what I was saying earlier, patriarchal control, norms and values. When women are silent, when they don't have a seat at the table to raise issues of concern to them, when they can't add a gender perspective to decisions that are being made in governance, then it means that we don't matter. It means that we are insignificant, and yet we expect to be able to achieve our development goals, which, by the way, is impossible. Nigeria did not meet any of the original Millennium Development Goals.
And now we convert it to SDGs.
And the SDGs that we have now, the Sustainable Development Goals, we are not likely to achieve any of those fully either. And even if by some miracle we are able to achieve one or two of them, definitely not SDG 5, which is gender equality and women's empowerment. We are all familiar with the reasons why women are finding it difficult to have political space. We have cultural norms and values which still don't regard women as viable leaders. And that's just not in Nigeria alone. You see what just happened in the United States with the elections there. We have issues to do with the lack of financial capacity compared with the men. There's political violence. We have hostile party structures, which make it difficult for women to become candidates in viable parties. And then we also have a situation whereby the whole political process is often polluted with all kinds of things. It makes it very difficult for certain women to put themselves forward to say, I want to run for office. And as a result, in our election cycles, if you think back, 2015, then to 2019, then to 2023, our numbers have fallen consistently. The Ninth Assembly, we had 5% of women in the National Assembly, and we made a whole lot of noise. Now we have roughly 3.5. We have 3 female senators out of 109 or so, and we have 14 women in the National Assembly. And as you rightly said earlier, there are at least 14 states in Nigeria where there is no woman at all in the State House of Assembly. We've never had a female governor. And it goes on and on. And so this is a serious problem. It's a crisis as far as I'm concerned. And that needs to be dealt with by using a whole range of measures, legal and policy frameworks, people raising their voices to say, no, this is not right, and demanding for accountability, because our leaders, whether it's at state level or national level, when they campaign using the energies and the voices and the agency of women to get there. And when they get there, it's, we get pushed aside again, and then it's business as usual to the next political cycle. Nigerian women need to get to a point where we need to make it politically expensive for our leaders to ignore women.
I want to clap on that. No. We need to make it politically expensive for our leaders to ignore women.
Words of marble.
So, Adeleye-Fayemi, I think that at this point, like you said, we have still not gone to the part of gender equality, and we may not get there anytime soon, because for some men to still hear that some other men are feminists is alien to them, right? It's not something that they're very used to hearing. So what role do men play in advocating for the rights of women, aside going about saying they're feminists, because there's some men that just claim feminist and they don't exactly believe in it, right? So how do we encourage more men to become allies in the fight for gender equality?
We cannot do this work successfully without the support of men. It's not possible. I would not be where I am today if I did not have a father who raised me to believe that there's nothing I can't accomplish. And my husband, Dr. Adeleye-Fayemi, has been an amazing husband, partner, friend. And when he was the governor of Ekiti State, because he knew that my life's work has been around working with women, for over 35 years now, I've worked in the international development sector. That's my background. Before my husband went into politics, and then I had to relocate back to Nigeria to support his work in Ekiti State. And when he was governor of Ekiti State, all the things I'm talking about, I was able to put a lot of that into practice. When my husband became governor, we had 26 members of the State House of Assembly in Ekiti, all men. And even though women were the ones who were servicing the party machinery, they didn't have that much of a voice, or they didn't have much to show for all their efforts. Over a period of 8 years, my husband's first term and second term, working with women in the state with the support of my husband and a whole range of other stakeholders, the political landscape in Ekiti State has changed now. So now we have, not only do we have 6 women in the State House of Assembly, and those numbers, by the way, he got into office in 2010. So from 2011, we made sure that we had women in the State House of Assembly. So we started off with 4 in each electoral cycle. Now there are 6. And the Deputy Speaker of Ekiti State is a woman. The Deputy Governor is a woman. The Secretary to the State Government is a woman. The Head of Service is a woman. And we have so many women who are either in the cabinet or are chairs of local governments, vice chairs, and so on. So these things are possible with political will. And since men are the ones who are in control of our political systems and processes, it's important for them to be allies. And men can be allies in different ways, starting from being decent fathers, raising their sons differently.
Please, can you repeat for those who may not have heard you? Repeat for those who may not have heard you.
Yes, being, decent fathers, raising their sons differently, raising their daughters to believe that they can own the world, being good husbands, and not being the ones who are how do young people call it today? The weapons fashioned against
the enemies in your camp. The weapons fashioned against you.
Right, and then basically ensuring that whatever space you find yourself as a male leader, create opportunities for women. See every woman either as your mother, your daughter, your sister, and not this sense of entitlement. Unfortunately, it's a result of socialization. And that's a byproduct of patriarchy. Men are raised with a certain sense of entitlement to women's bodies, to women's labors, to women's affections, and to women's time, agency, and so on. So we need men as allies for them to think differently and behave differently. And women as well, we should stop investing in the bank of patriarchy. So it means...
Because we cannot withdraw anything.
We can't withdraw.
So stop teaching your daughter how to make the perfect eba or the perfect egusi soup. It's important for her to know how to cook, but your son should be able to learn as well.
Life skills.
Stop keeping your daughter indoors so that she can clean and do all those things while your son goes out to play football, and in the process is able to build social capital with his playmates on the field. Let us try and raise our children differently so that we can have a different outcome.
So interestingly, yesterday was International Men's Day, and we celebrated the men in our lives on this table. We recognized and we appreciated them for making a difference in our lives. All right, so let me piggyback off Tolu's question. Now, it's a saying that, in quotes, a whole generation worked to empower women, but forgot to teach men how to live with empowered women. We've had this conversation before on this table, ma'am, and what I would like to ask you, from the very rich perspectives that you have shared with us this morning, what do you think? Did we somehow neglect the boys while we're raising empowered women?
This is a typical example of gaslighting. Women have been the ones who have been at the receiving end of injustice and a consistent socialization process that has led us to where we are today. We give birth to daughters, we do the best we can. We give birth to sons, we do the best we can within the circumstances, the context that we live in. If it turns out that these boys who become men don't know how to live with a woman who has gone to school the same way they have gone, who is working in the workplace the same place, the same places where they are. How does that then become the fault of just women? That's why I said earlier, we all have a responsibility as parents or guardians or mentors to ensure that we raise boys and girls differently so that they don't continue to sow the seeds for a future that will continue to make women be at the mercy of men. If any mistakes have been made up to now, it's the mistake of There are mistakes that all of us have made as a society, but people should stop blaming women. That's gaslighting. We are the ones who have been the victims of this, and now all the blame is being placed on us. So if we follow that through to its logical conclusion, they are now going to keep putting that on us, for us to be the ones to now go back and start teaching men how to be good men, how to be good boys, and so on. What about the fathers? What about the husbands? What's their role?
And you raise that point, and I keep saying people should go and look up learned incompetence. It's a very, very interesting thing when it comes to men-women relationships, and how men will just say, I just don't know how. You want me to do something for you, make a list. Why should I make a list to tell you it's time to take out the trash, or the house needs this, or this needs to be done? And we talk about the mental load on women, and tomorrow we're having a conversation about the burden of care and how that often falls on women.
Yes, okay, when it comes to gender roles and responsibilities, sorry, we are not talking in the abstract. There's no such thing as women can naturally do anything. Women naturally should know how to cook. No woman comes out with a spoon in her hand to be able to, stir stew or make jollof rice. There is no baby boy who is born with a pen in his hand so that he can make laws, or with a gun so that he can go out and wage wars. We learn these things, and anything that we can learn, we need to unlearn. So the challenge we all have as stakeholders in society is we need to figure out the things we need to learn and the things that we need to unlearn.
Wish I can give you a high five.
Hey, just give her
Do you do high fives, Ma?
Just do the high five.
She's giving you high fives.
every minute.
Okay. Can we continue? All right, we don't have a lot of time. They're giving me warning already. But you've spoken a bit about the time when you were First Lady of Ekiti State, wife of the Governor of Adeleye-Fayemi, from 2010 to 2014, I believe, and then again from 2018 to 2022. But there often is controversy when it comes to conversations around the office of the First Lady, and it's not recognized by the Constitution. And depending on how it's handled, it can end up being front-page news sometimes. What do you think the role of First Ladies is in the grand scheme of things in Nigeria, contextually? Especially, we just had a conversation about the state of Nigerian children. We're here talking about issues around women's empowerment and economic independence and education. We can hear sometimes about pet projects, and then just, this is what they have to do for 4 years. Or somebody will say, I think you wrote an essay, you said you're not expected to go home and sit down because you've just become the wife of the governor and do nothing and twiddle your thumbs for 4 years. What do you think the role of First Lady should be in the grand scheme of things contextually in Nigeria?
The role of First Lady is extremely important. And there are some things that we have gotten so used to saying. And it's part of the unlearning. We need to start unlearning them. People keep saying First Ladies are not in the Constitution. Yeah, it's true. People should bring out the Nigerian Constitution for us to check. A chief of staff to a president or a governor, is it in the Constitution? A special advisor, the whole range of things, are all those in the Constitution? But we find that our leaders cannot operate without certain offices. It is not possible for a political leader to operate without a spouse, to ensure that if there are any gaps that need to be filled, that person steps in. And my experience has been people treat the office of the First Lady like some kind of black market. A black market is a place where everyone knows where it is. It's supposed to be illegal. But it's the only place where you can get what you need. So you go there, and that's where everyone goes, and everyone knows that you're going there. But then you pretend that you don't know it exists. Nigerian First Ladies are no longer on the black market. Nigerian First Ladies exist, they add value. And if you recall during COVID in 2020, when we had a pandemic within a pandemic, the pandemic of sexual and gender-based violence. I was chair of the Nigerian Governors' Wives Forum then. It's not the Nigerian Governors' Spouses Forum, because my husband was chair of the Nigerian Governors' Forum. With other First Ladies, we are the ones who put pressure on the Nigerian Governors' Forum to declare a state of emergency on sexual and gender-based violence in Nigeria. And it's as a result of that state of emergency that we moved from 13 states in Nigeria who had domesticated the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law So today we have 35 states in Nigeria who have legislation against sexual and gender-based violence. They've either ratified the VAP law or its equivalent. And that was due to the efforts of first ladies around the country. We've done work on drug abuse, we've done collective work on cancer, on women's economic empowerment. And First Lady, Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has been doing all she can to ensure that Nigerian women continue to reap whatever benefits can be had from the support of other First Ladies around the country that she continues to encourage and inspire. So I would like to encourage us to hold our First Ladies accountable, because they do have a role to play. They are champions, they are advocates, they are philanthropists in their own right, and many First Ladies that I have worked with are also professionals who have built a solid track record and career. My successor in Ekiti State, and Dr. Adeleye-Fayemi Oyebanji, she is an associate professor at the University of Ibadan. So we have First Ladies who know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And their expertise, their support, and their role as mothers of the state or mothers of the nation is extremely important at this critical time. And let's stop all this talk of they're not to the Constitution. They're not to the Constitution, but we know when to go to them when we need them, or to use them for campaign purposes. They are not on the black market anymore. They are there front and center, and they are adding value.
Wow, I'm just looking at her mouth. I just want
But she did that, right?
I know this is going to be one of my favorite.
You have a minute.
You know, I just wanted to, you know, another thing I wanted
challenges, ma'am. I asked it first. Challenges when you were First Lady.
Well, did you have a lot of challenges? Because I know that there must be challenges. You can't be this brilliant and they will just let you be. And a lot of people do not know that. Or maybe I should say some First Ladies need to push out their capabilities more. Because a lot of times, a lot of people just see them like beautiful women that sit beside their husbands, and their true value, they don't really get, aside the glamour.
Okay, a lot of time. So opportunities and challenges. And we have 1 minute there in my ear, ma. So sorry.
There are many challenges. There are people who would always want to make you feel less than. But I think it's important for us, and this is not just about First Ladies, so all of us as women, because that's the memo we get from day one, that we are not worthy, that we have some value, but not as much value as a male child, and so on. We are worthy. We have value. We have a voice. Let's use it, whatever platforms we occupy, whether we are First Lady, whether we are brilliant, beautiful newscasters. Any position we occupy, let's use it, because for every privilege that we have, there is a responsibility that goes with it.
Yes.
Blessings is in love. Do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
I'm just, thank you.
Wow.
And you know, I was saying, because of time, there were so many adjustments to the script, but Jasiri means bold, courageous, and brave. And you are truly a definition of a Jasiri woman. And we've been very honored. Are we making you blush, ma? Yes. We've been very, very honored to have you as our guest today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we'll have you back as well. You know, and she's an author. She just
has a book.
Not a book. There's a collection of essays, a collection of stories. She released 3 books, and she's going to be our guest on News Central's literati program. So please be looking out for that as well. She talks about her writing and the themes that run through her writing as well. But it's the end.
Erelu BC Adeleye-Fayemi, co-founder, African Women's Development Fund, and former First Lady, Ekiti State, and my role model from today. Thank you so much for being here. That was a mind-blowing, eye-opening, I don't know, whatever word to use, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for impacting.
There were words on marble.
Words on marble. Goodbye. Bye. I will see you. I'm going with that.
Wow.